exciting. I really want to begin by just thanking all of you for participating. Your presence and contribution matters and is greatly appreciated. And so thank you very much. We've had almost 100 RSVPs for this event. Many of you, most all of you, are tuning in live. So thank you for making this happen. And also, some of you will be joining the replay too. And so thank you for tuning in asynchronously. We know how precious your time is and how valuable it is. And this has been an invite only to really connect our community. As you know, we're 150 plus exited founders who are uniting and really joining forces to collaborate in ways that really support one another. And so we're thrilled to be able to share with you this special event where we get to shine a light on some really evolutionary entrepreneurs who are on their hero's journey. And we're really excited about getting to the heart of their ventures and really sharing what they're up to and some of the magic that they're manifesting. And if you do and feel called to support them on their mission, there will be an opportunity for us to crowdsource support right here and now, live on this event, and obviously following, we can connect you with them. And so, really excited to share a little bit more about how that works. And so, for those of you that can see, there's a button beneath me, and it reads "Ready Player World." And so, at any point in time, if you feel as though you can contribute meaningfully to their cause, feel free to click upon that. There's a short type form that will allow you to kind of acknowledge how you believe you can potentially support their venture, and we'll certainly connect you directly then with the founder. And so, thank you. It's interesting. We've all seen the power and the potential of when a founder or co-founder come together with an intention and birth it into being, and the opportunity to transform trillion-dollar industries and create new constructs for society. And so the vision here is, imagine if we had dozens of exited founders playing together. What would be possible if and when we all showed up and shared our greatness, our unique capabilities, our zones of genius. And so I don't know. That's this beautiful experiment that we're supporting, calling Supernova, and yet here we are, well on our way. And thank you for being a part of it today. So please know that I see you all as stars. You're all superstars, and I'm really excited what can happen when we align and shine our light together. Without further ado, let's play our first featured evolutionary entrepreneur, Mr. Ben Lamm. Ben, good to see you here. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Anytime you need me, I'm always here. So,
I know, there are many who may know a little bit about your story or a little bit about you here in our community. Beyond being a sixth-time now, congrats on the most recent exit, founder. I really see you as one of the more visionary founders I know, and beyond your success, I'm honored and privileged to call you a friend, and I certainly value your wisdom and advice more than gold. And so anyway, thank you so much, brother, for being a part of this event. And I would love to just kick things off with, if you could or would share your life story without the story. So maybe like a movie highlight reel or sizzle reel, just like quick scenes that might provide a little bit of backdrop in terms of who you are and where you're coming from, and then we can kind of bring that into your current venture, Colossal.
No, I appreciate it, and I'm super honored to be here. I'm a huge fan, Barry, of yours and just everything that you're building with Supernova. You were just to give you a shout out. You were the one that made me realize there was a full balance that I need to focus on in life. And so you've been a great friend, supporter, mentor. I don't know what wisdom I can share with you. I think you have more wisdom for me, and you've helped me through a lot. So I'm very grateful for our friendship and partnerships. And so super excited to be here. Yeah, it's weird because I feel like the startup journey is like you live like 100 years in every startup. So I guess I'm 500-600 years old, and so how to condense time is like a skill set of entrepreneurs and people that have gone through it in a serial fashion. So I'll try to condense time quickly here. But my journey has always been one that has focused on, I think, entrepreneurship. Even from a young age, I was always very, very excited about it. I went to school for finance and accounting, realized that I absolutely hated finance and accounting. Um, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So in high school, I worked like 9 different jobs, not because I was trying to figure out which job I was going to go do, but because I was fired from every single one. So I definitely learned that I had to go be my own boss on some level, or I was going to live with my parents or be homeless. So I felt like entrepreneurship was a necessity and kind of a requirement for me to sustain some form of a life. And so after college, I started my first e-learning company. I thought that, I had I'm a big thesis guy. So I always like to look at a company and try to think about what could the thesis be? What does the world need? And started an e-learning company with the concept of why can't e-learning be sexy? And we were trying to kind of date myself. We built a learning management system, all built in Flash, which doesn't kind of really even exist anymore. Fast forward, I then got into mobile, started a mobile application development company with a core platform. We powered most of the largest mobile apps, everything from Starbucks to Pizza Hut to Disney and everywhere in between. I then thought gaming would be cool, so I got into gaming. We built a gaming company called Team Chaos. We built like 7 shitty games that didn't work. Then we made one called Dragon Academy, which did work, and Zing ended up buying the company, which was cool. It was a very interesting process because it's such a hits based business, so you have to just kind of grind through it. And it was like it was weird to start a business where you actually were building many businesses that you were watching fail along the way, which was interesting. Then I got into defense and built a platform, a common operating picture platform, leveraging AI for satellites and space and defense. We built a conversational intelligence platform along the way called Conversable. We like to joke that we missed large language models by 5 years and $45 billion. But it was a great company called Commercial. We got acquired. And then I met George Church, and George, changed my life. George did this thing to me where I called him to talk about software because I was a software entrepreneur for the most part, with some space hardware. And George was like, you should, he was explaining all these things that we could do with synthetic biology and software. I was like, oh, great. I'm going to go build a synthetic biology software company after Hypergiant. But then I asked George, because I'm curious, what else are you working on? And he started saying all these great things. And I asked him if there was one project that they would unlimited capital for, what would you do? And he's like, I would work to bring back the woolly mammoth, to rewild it back into the ecosystem and build technologies for conservation and de-extinction. And then he hung up, and that like changed my moment. And I felt like, I actually texted you about it, and you and I talked about it, and you connected me with Peter Diamandis, and Peter talked to me about it. And what was interesting was like, I felt like my entire life I had said I wanted to go start a company that could like really change the world. But for the most part, we just built really great companies that ended up getting acquired, which were interesting economically, but never really changed the world. And then I felt like if I didn't go pursue this, I was the biggest hypocrite of all time. So I was like, I at least have to go try to build a de-extinction company. And we're well on our way to de-extinction. So that's the fastest I could do it.
Epic, epic. And Ben, it strikes me like how often we create companies. We get rallied behind an idea, and yet, like, is it really what the world is needing? Are we really solving a problem? Is it making our lives and humanity better? And so, thank you
Yeah, or is it just like an and? Is it like I felt like I was getting this model of like, oh, I'll just build a better XYZ platform, right? And it's like nobody really needs that.
No, no, and so I really, I think it's amazing your story and message for other fellow, exited founders, especially as they think about what's next for them. It's like take on something that like scares the shit out of you, right? That like has you like, that's going to challenge you on every possible way, knowing that there's a correlation to the path you take on, personally and professionally, and knowing that you leave a masterpiece, a legacy.
We definitely need more people, in my opinion, this is my sole opinion, working on big, weird, interesting moonshots.
Yes.
Because I think we all sat along or with a small group of people in COVID and just kind of like watch Netflix and we're like, is this it? Is this what the world has in store for us? Right. And so I really think that now more than ever, people see companies like SpaceX and some of these other incredible companies, and they're like, there's really hard, interesting problems out there to solve. And I think there's a bigger appetite for moonshots now more than ever. And, I just encourage entrepreneurs when I talk to them is if they can go after those moonshots, if they're successful, they really do change humanity in some way.
Beautiful. And so, you're setting out on this beautiful path. It's literally named Colossal. Obviously, you've garnered some support, and when we've talked, I mean, I know you've been blown away at how fast things have been happening. I mean, obviously, as founders, we know how slow things can go,
Yeah.
from time to time. And I think it's fair to say, like, even though you've been a successfully exited founder 6 times over, it doesn't make this it doesn't make this any easier. In fact, if anything, it,
No.
it can increase your opportunity to hold more responsibility, and there's challenges inherent with that. But do you want to share just a little bit of like what's been happening with Colossal?
Yeah. So we're the world's first de-extinction company, and our focus is on de-extinction of a couple of core species, as well as species preservation for critically endangered species. And what's interesting is not enough people talk about the conservation aspects; they really just talk about the de-extinction stuff, which is cool. But we are trying to do a lot. All the technologies that we make that have an application to conservation, we give to the world for free. And give to conservation groups. And we're working on really cool projects like the northern white rhino and the cheetah and others that we just think are on the brink of extinction, and we want to help save those. So I feel like, I read this stat a couple years ago that if we do nothing, we will lose up to 50% of all biodiversity between now and 2050. And then I went down this rabbit hole about the importance of biodiversity to ecosystems and ecosystem collapse, which terrified me. And so, it made me want to go start this company and at least do it through the lens of de-extinction. And what's been interesting is, fast forward to today, we have, over 120 scientists. We've got academic and lab partners all over the world. We've raised $225 million, and we're which sounds like a lot, but when you're building a system and you're building an entire system model that we need all aspects of the technology stack to do this, the labs and whatnot. It's quite a lot of infrastructure. But yeah, we're making tremendous progress, and we're still on track for 2028 for our first mammoth calves, which is pretty cool.
I think that's way cool. One of the things that I just want to kind of just drop into this conversation also is that at a time when everybody was really struggling to raise money, you were able to raise an incredible amount of money. In fact, I remember your seed, Series A, even B, and it was like a lot of that was even pre-revenue. And so
Yeah.
going to market with a bold story, like daring to make a difference, actually finding people who are aligned with like your true mission, it matters. And
It,
I
it,
just
it is a game. Getting the right investors. I've had great investors. I've had terrible investors, like every entrepreneur over the years. Probably the terrible ones were partly probably my fault. Probably some of them were their fault. But ultimately, with this business, being so long term focused, being so big, you need really long term investors that can think on that kind of event horizon. And so aligning to people that one, see the benefit of the technologies commercially, but also have a goal to be a part of something that can be so impactful. If we're successful in our endeavors, we will go down in history, right? And so it's like, we always talk about like the Apollo program, which was a literal moonshot, but also made a lot of technologies which ended up becoming trillion-dollar industries. And so if on the path to de-extinction, we build technologies for conservation, that's great. If we also build them for human healthcare and can monetize them, well, then, our investors get a really great return from that. But you really have to have investors that can have kind of that mindset in order to, I guess, garnered the right success at the right speed that we really needed it to happen. And aligning those personalities and ensuring that's just is something that we spent a lot of time, and we were very, very thoughtful and mindful of who need to be a part of Colossal. And so far it's worked quite well.
Yeah, I'll say. And there's definitely something. I know I look for ventures that will no doubt play out the finite game, but also are playing the infinite game. Really important. Um, Ben, what's something you want to celebrate quickly? Maybe it's something where previously, like you were struggling, but you've broken through. It could be personal, professional, but
Yeah,
what's something?
I think I in a weird way, I feel like I learned a lot with my first 6 companies, but and so I'm thankful for that, and I had the scars and lessons to learn. But I feel like everything was really just training, which sounds kind of weird for today. So I'm very, very grateful about our investors, supporters, advisors like you and others. And I'm just very, very grateful that I went through so many ups and downs on the entrepreneurial journey, which got me ready for today. Because I feel like that Colossal is really the race, right? It's like I thought these other things were the race, and we sold things and we had 8 and 9 figure exits, but I was like, that actually wasn't the race. That was practice. That was training, and this is actually the race because like I feel like I was in love with the journey of entrepreneurship, whereas now I'm in love with the journey of entrepreneurship in building companies and cultures, but I'm also more passionate about what we're actually building at the company, right? And so um, I'm just very grateful that I finally found the alignment of the love of building the company with the actual company I want to build.
Yeah, and thank you for being on purpose and service and shining as bright as you do. And also too, I know we've talked about like how many incredible people are rallying, with and around you. I mean, these things don't just happen through a founder; they happen through a total movement, if you will.
Yeah.
Ben, to get raw,
Entrepreneurship, people
go
don't
ahead.
realize this because it feels very lonely a lot of the time. Like I've struggled with loneliness my entire professional life, but entrepreneurship is a team sport, and sometimes it's hard to remember that, especially in those lonely moments. But it is a team sport, and you need a team. You need your internal team, but you also need your external team of supporters. That's why I'm so excited and passionate about what you're building here, because a lot of times people need more than just money, right? They need support, and support isn't always just money.
100%. And so how can we support you, Ben? I mean, who seemingly has it all, and yet, every billionaire I get to know and go deep with actually has, so many challenges behind the scene, and something so simple that someone else can support them with could be an absolute game changer for their lives and the work they're doing. And so, what would support look like for you, from the Supernova community?
The biggest thing right now is, we've been really trying to, what we're doing is not just hard, but there's lots of opinions on it, right? There's scientific opinions, there's animal group opinions, there's indigenous people groups opinions, there's federal opinions. And so the only thing that I would ask is if people are bored and they find interest and they're finding interest in what Colossal's doing, and it's something that it's worth sharing with their community. That's all we really need right now, is like we want people to understand and take the time to understand the importance of the biodiversity crisis and understand the technologies that Colossal is building. While it's amazing to achieve de-extinction, it's also really important for conservation, and that message is getting lost. So the biggest thing that I can have is just a community of people that are supportive and really understand and lean into our story and journey and help proliferate it with other like-minded people. Like right now, it's just the sharing of that knowledge because we haven't achieved de-extinction yet. But the sharing of the journey and the importance to the planet, because like right now it's very mixed. Sometimes people get that, but I'd say 80% of people just talk about the cool factor or that they love or hate the de-extinction factor, but they don't really talk about what's going on in biodiversity. So the biggest thing is having a team of and a community of like-minded evangelists that can help share the importance of what we believe we're working on.
Awesome. And what's I mean, for those that aren't going to invest the hours and days or even weeks in diving deep into the subject matter, I mean, what were some of the most important kind of highlights that kind of we could bring to surface? I mean, I know that's challenging, and we only have like 2 minutes
Yeah,
left.
no, it is. It's just
The
I
next,
would say the awareness of the biodiversity crisis. It's like it's a big deal. People are talking about carbon and methane suppression, which is great, and that's in climate pollution. But especially now, we just need to be talking about that. We are fighting a war against biodiversity loss, and we will lose up to 50% of all biodiversity. If no one remembers anything, if people just remember we are going to lose up to 50% of biodiversity between now and 2050 if we just keep doing what modern conservation is doing. And that sucks. Like that actually will have made like, and of that, I think 80% of those are keystone species, which are species that are critical to the success of the bid. So if people just remember that we're going to lose up to 50% of biodiversity and we need new technologies to combat loss of biodiversity and prevent extinction and also for de-extinction, because we will make more species extinct. We're doing it every single day. If people just know that about us and help us proliferate that message, that would be huge.
awesome. And I know we've talked, and there's going to be more and more ways that people are going to be able to, not only lean
Oh
in
yeah,
and have the, but actively get engaged in the months and years ahead, which will be critical. And so glad that so many powerful, majestic manifestors and creators and builders that are a part of this community can now know who you are, see what you're up to, lean into that, and co-create and contribute in many meaningful ways to the systems that you're building and how you're plugging into to larger
yeah.
ecosystems. Thank you, Ben, so much for who you are. And I know many folks like you could very easily retire and check out and be enjoying your backyard, which I know you hold precious with your beloved, and appreciate you waking up every day and showing up and shining with all your light and contribution in the world. And I certainly know you're one worthy of supporting in every way possible. So thanks for being a part
You're
of.
you're you're way too nice to
Ah,
me, but I will appreciate it and I will take it every day. So
right on, right on. Thanks so much, Ben. Appreciate you. Take
awesome.
care.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll be in touch. Cheers. All right, and so we now have our second founder coming through the live stream. This is Juan from Humantelligence. Juan, good to see you. Good morning or
Great to see you,
afternoon or
Barry.
evening,
Thanks
depending
for
on when you're
having me
joining.
here. Yeah,
Yes,
I'm in Miami, so
indeed. So
mid-afternoon.
beautiful, and I know it's cold almost everywhere in the United States except for Miami today. Although cold enough for you to be wearing a vest, so there we go. Um, so Juan, I would love to introduce you as an incredible kind of CEO, operator, and more importantly a super connector, as we'll hear a little bit more from your story. And so, without further ado, would love to hear your origin story directly from you, in maybe 3 to 4 or 5 minutes. If you could just share a little bit about your background and your some life highlights that have led you to the current venture, which is Humantelligence.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Barry, for having me. Thanks all the members of Supernova for taking time to listen. I'm a Cuban American from the Washington, D.C. area, Maryland, Montgomery County, if you know it. I well educated. I had a professor as a dad, so went to Harvard, went to Wharton for MBA. I always tell people my best school though was Procter and Gamble. So everything I do, both professionally and personally, I structure after how I learned how to problem solve at Procter. Um, a large part of my career was being an executive internationally. So I left the US at 22. I was not able to connect well with a name like Juan. Um, I didn't realize, but the older I got, the more people surprised me in the fact that you don't look like a Juan. You sound so educated for a Juan. The whole dating scene in college was quite frustrating. Being a fraternity at Harvard called the Fox Club, and we've all been there where you're chatting with somebody, you're physically connecting with them. You pass the whole name thing, and then an hour later there's like, oh, let's stay in touch. What's your name? And you tell them your name's Juan, and then they look cold white and run away. So I actually left the U.S. Not thinking I'd come back because I wasn't really accepted for where I was. So I learned 5 languages as fluent like English. Lived in Germany for 3-4 years, where I turned Puma around. Puma was a bankrupt company. At the age of 30, I relaunched Puma around the world in all the G7 countries, probably the most successful brand turnaround. I worked in Brazil for Siebel Systems, a software company where I was employee 100. Many of you probably know Siebel Systems and Tom Siebel, the first CRM company before Salesforce. We went from 100 employees to 12,000 employees in 1 year. We also went from 10 million in revenue to $3 billion in 2 years. So got to work directly for some of the greatest software development companies, people in the country, in Latin America and the US. I also worked at Reebok and launched Reebok Soccer, went to France and worked for Decathlon, for those of you who've seen their anywhere. There are 4,000 stores around the world. Every store does minimum 40 million in revenue, some up to 200 million for one store. It's over a $180 billion company, largest sports retailer in the world. I ran a big swath of Europe, managed about 40,000 people in French, and came back to the US actually with them to be CEO of a small $300 million division. Um, all of that was my first career outside the US, and then, or doing executive leadership. And then I became a headhunter. I really focused on human capital management. I became really good at connecting, again, not just for personal reasons myself, but connecting executives to jobs and finding what real fit was. And so spent 15 years doing that as a partner at Heidrick and Struggles, a partner at Korn Ferry, and then launching my own executive search firm, where I was making a considerable amount of money and living the life, having brought me to Miami and back to the US, where I could connect with a more international population where a lot of people are Cuban American, and my name did not uh, pigeonhole me, and people didn't think I was something different from what their expectations were. So, with all that experience, I decided to bottle my superpower of connection, which I've learned to do with people individually, professionally through headhunting and hiring, as well as through marriages. I've actually connected 86 couples for marriage. That superpower I built into Humantelligence, finding the world's best psychometric assessment tool, using it for hiring, where we reduced turnover by 40%. COVID changed those plans though and made us pivot, because COVID, obviously, nobody was going to be hiring anyone for about a year or more, and we lost all revenue. So we now have Humantelligence pivoted to collaboration, and that's probably the biggest challenge of large organizations today, is people understanding each other. And so we're the first company that's thinking big around this problem of understanding in the workplace. And we are actually allowing AI surface within the collaboration tools we all know and use, like Workday, like Slack, Outlook, Teams, WebEx, Zoom, surfacing insights kind of like Grammarly at the moment on how to connect, how to communicate, how to collaborate, how to train, how to develop. So all the human capital challenges at large companies today is usually based on the challenge of understanding, and now we surface that at scale instantly for tens of thousands of people. So that's the journey, Barry, and my superpower is now in the form of a company called Humantelligence.
Yeah, well, I want to credit you because I certainly have, I've known you from Miami, and I certainly know that you could have continued to do your own executive search firm and make a million or two a year, and have kind of that cushy lifestyle, and for you to dive deeper into being in service on purpose, with Humantelligence is real. And one of the things that really kind of got me excited about your venture is, um, you know, we've all taken these personality, assessments. I remember when I was working for Arthur Andersen back in the day, and doing Myers Briggs and finding it interesting. I've since rapidly evolved, and have been learning a ton about myself and others through um, like gene keys, even, right? And so, knowing that you're leveraging kind of the assessment technology, and then actually serving that up like in the moment of truth, through each and every interaction as people communicate and collaborate through these tools, I believe has tremendous potential and worthy merit. um, talk to me a little bit about for HT. I mean, what are some of the things that you're celebrating, and what are some of the bigger challenges or struggles? And if we could just get raw and real, knowing that you're in a safe space with a bunch of other fellow founders and so forth. We're here for you.
Yeah, in terms of celebrating, definitely celebrating my connection now to Supernova. Celebrating, I've entered this year with a balance in not stressing out so much and working so hard. I actually took a week off without my computer during the winter break, which I've never done probably in 15 years. So I feel kind of, instead of forcing the framework of time, just letting things happen as they do.
Mm.
Maybe for many founders on this call that they've been doing that for years, but for me, I was the guy writing 100 emails during Christmas and hoping that people would respond, right? And so that's more annoying than productive. So to let go and just know, spend all Saturday with my 3 and 5 year old, like that was hard for me to do the first couple of years of this company. I'm now doing that, and so celebrating that life balance I have found, celebrating my team, right?
Yeah.
Celebrating my
Yeah.
team, and then we've done some pretty successful things in the last 3 months. Accenture is, despite Accenture's laying off of 80,000 employees, they have signed an MSA for all 700,000 that was delayed. They have now come back to the table and they want to move forward with a couple small pilots. That's a huge win. We've waited for like 8 months for them to come back to the table on the signed MSA. Aditya Birla Group is the second largest company in India with 700 portfolio companies and 500,000 employees. They're looking to use our tool across all their portfolio companies. That could be upwards of 5 million revenue by the end of the year. And going into 2025, we signed Coca-Cola for a $300,000 deal for Latin America, a 3-year deal, 100,000 a year paid up front. And there was one more. Yeah, and United Healthcare has just launched this month a 3,000 person pilot in their CTO organization that, if it goes well, will lead to 10,000 people. So these are all things that I'm blessed and feel the universe is acting in pronoia to help me and my organization and my team succeed. Some of the challenges, though, although those were some great accounts I mentioned, we're still really doing founder-led sales. We don't have the money yet to do kind of demand gen, big engine of lead gen. So I'm only getting like 3 or 4, you know, qualified demos a month. So if anybody out there, could get an introduction to clients, 500 employees to 50,000 employees. So you're probably looking at more enterprise-wide clients with multiple offices, multiple countries, where communication is really a challenge between employees and knowledge workers and Gen Zers with the older employees, where there's cross-functional work and collaboration, like tech companies or consulting firms, healthcare companies. Would love those introductions. And then any angels that who might want to put in minimum check size 50K. We're looking for a small raise, which VC has not been kind to us. I think it's not a really good environment right now. So we're looking more for the angel market for this year. So those are some of the celebrations and some of the challenges that we have.
Right on. And for the for those of us leaning in and who are capable of providing a connect, an intro, like what titles like are best? I mean, maybe I know, but maybe you could just share with them.
Yeah, so the ICP for us typically is half the time it's heads of HR or heads of talent management and development. That's where assessments, personality tests have typically sat. However, because we're a collaboration tool, which is really a plug-in to Outlook, Teams, that budget usually sits on the CTO and CIO. So, United Healthcare, Wells Fargo, Procter & Gamble, all those pilots are now under the CTO. So if you know any heads of IT or CIO, CTOs that manage large teams of these tech people and engineers who don't know how to communicate well, that's another buyer. And then thirdly, anyone who's just an executive at a company. We got to Accenture through a contact in innovation, and they got us to Accenture. So any leader who understands the challenge of communicating, collaborating in a distributed workforce, will get us in touch with the right person at those companies.
Awesome, awesome. And yeah, I mean, Juan, I've been super impressed with you and just, I mean, the hustle, and also too, I mean, these major accounts you've been landing and expanding through just your own personal network, and then also too just through asking for support from the people who believe in you and your venture, and just like crowdsourcing, some introductions, like via LinkedIn or via an email, and what you can do with that kind of relational alignment. I mean, is pure magic. So I know we're certainly looking forward to supporting, you guys with more at bat, so to speak, and I know you make the most of those and do so with great intention and reverence and diligence. And so,
Yeah,
um,
and Barry, there was one thing I didn't address that you kind of alluded to. I guess
yeah,
I'll open up and share here. I do believe this is a transformational moment for software to help with uh, connection, right? We are using AI that basically rewrites emails. So you write an email, the email gets rewritten with AI on one button to the audience you're writing to. It helps AI helps with any meeting to help you manage that meeting and collaborate. Every company in the world will use a tool like this. Every relationship in the world at work will become better. Every team will be collaborating better. So this is a win on both the enterprise side that will perform better, be more innovative, more agile, as well as the individual side where everyone will be happier at work, more connected with others. And so, that vision, actually, I was, like you said, comfortable making millions, 1 to 2 million a year with no employees as a headhunter. It's quite lucrative industry. And it was through spiritual awakening at the age of 40, about 10 years ago, that I started to work with ayahuasca and psilocybin and other ceremonial plant medicine. And it was in ceremony that I was given the message, Juan, don't be lazy and just make money. You're not really impacting the world. Try to leverage what we've given you as a universe to change the world and billions of people. And, there aren't many tools out there that could touch a billion people. And this one really is one. And I've put my whole career and money and everything behind it. And when things have not gone well, the wife is there nagging me that, hey, why don't you go back to making tons of money? Because I don't take a paycheck here at Humantelligence. And so that has been something very special and although a big sacrifice, the most rewarding journey I've ever had in life.
amazing, amazing. Yeah, no, I'm so grateful for you for choosing the path that you are. I know for me, I used like Grammarly as a plugin long time ago, just as a spell checker, right? And obviously, it's improved in that it can help finish some of my sentences, but there's a real power, to HT and its ability, after the assessment. I mean, you know, sometimes the assessments help us really get to know ourselves in new and different ways, and just how I communicate even with my oldest son, who's more of an engineer mindset, versus my youngest. There's just a totally different approach, different languaging, and just to take that, the EQ, right, like to a whole nother level, like the emotional intelligence also. Like, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, and to have technology to support us in doing so, so we truly do connect more deeply with one another. I mean, it's a key to unlock collaboration at next levels. And so, anyway, I'm thrilled about what you're doing. We're obviously thrilled to be a part of, backing it, and we want to accelerate your mission faster, with more people coming into greater relationships through more connection and collaboration. So, thank you very much, Juan, for being a part of today's event, and also just who you are. You're a star, and I'm excited to see what this community can and will be able to bring, to you, for you, through you, in the days and weeks and months and years ahead. For those of you that would like to connect with Juan, please click on the Ready Player World button under the live stream, and for those of you that are replaying it, you'll see that button clearly when we send out the recorded version. Juan, thank you. Have a great day, and we'll catch up soon, as well.
Thanks, Barry. Thanks,
All
everyone.
right, cheers. So next up, our last but not least, we have Paul Graf, who's the founder and CEO of Healthy Young Minds. Hey, Paul, good to see you on screen.
Hey Barry,
Uh,
good to see you.
Yes, indeed. And so, Paul, just by way of quick introduction, and we'll get a more of your backstory, origin story here in a moment. Paul really represents for me a true, heart-led, leader, a visionary founder, and also someone who, is just on an incredible mission, given his current startup and venture, and one I'm really excited to share with all of you today, as kind of the closing chapter to our first opening event for our Supernova community. And so, Paul, without further ado, can you please share uh, a little bit of where you're coming from, and what you're up to with Healthy Young Minds, please?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Barry. It's a pleasure to be participating in this with such great other founders to hear their stories too. That's really moving and awesome. So thank you for having me join you. So I'm a native New Yorker. I grew up in New York, born and raised there, and lived and worked in New York for 20 years. I got a degree in business from Lehigh University and moved back to New York after, but I'd always wanted to play music and be a rock star. And so I I had two passions really. It's business and music. And when I got back to New York after college, I joined a band and started a business. And it was they kind of worked well together because music was at night, work was during the day, and it was a nice balance. And a lot of different entrepreneurial efforts while I was playing music in the city and touring around the country. And just to not get too deep into it, after about a few years, 4 or 5 years of that, well, I don't say I had a t-shirt business that I grew. I had an art business. Unfortunately went into the music business, which was really painful as a musician to be working on other folks' music and not having my own musical dreams realized. So I didn't do that for very long. But at some point, I realized, I really got to pick something and focus. And so I went into finance, and I had a great career in finance and really learned venture capital and investing, and had a lot of success with early stage investing. Is really my sweet spot. But I had this yearning to build stuff. So one day, a guy came in. He was pitching me his business, a young guy, software concept, and I said, "Man, I'm not just going to fund you. I'm going to join you. We're going to do this together." So I jumped on the other side of the table, and it was just such an amazing experience to be back building again. And that's really what I enjoy most. So throughout the years, I've had uh, plenty of failures, both with companies I've invested in and companies I've started, and many successes too. Um, and it's an online advertising exit, which was really big and great, and another software company. But I then moved out to Colorado with my family and was kind of on that same journey. I'd been investing for a while at a great early stage startups. But my wife and I have three young kids. They're 9, 12, and 14. And our oldest has autism. And, early in his life, we just really struggled to figure out what's going on and how do we help him. And where we live in Eagle County, Colorado, was a therapy desert. And just incredibly challenging for our family. And difficult and traumatic for his younger siblings. So about 5 years ago, I decided, that I would pause my career and apply all my knowledge and entrepreneurial efforts and my own capital towards building a pediatric behavioral and mental health clinic in our community here to not just help our family, but to help our entire community. So about 5.5 years ago, I started the Bell Mind Center. We offer occupational therapy, speech therapy, ABA counseling, testing and diagnosing, and art therapy. It's a collaborative model. We see over 100 kids a week now. Our therapists go into the school systems. We work with Val Health. All the pediatricians refer to us. And I'm so proud of the fact that our valley is no longer a therapy desert for kids. It's impacted our family, but it's really helped our broader community. And so COVID rolls around the first time, and I put everyone onto virtual, and it was just extraordinary how well the kids did getting their services remotely. I was one of those folks who thought that conventional wisdom prior to COVID that, oh, everything's better in person. It kind of sounds right, but we found unequivocally that the virtual model is as good and often, frankly, better than an in-person model. And so I looked around the country to see who is doing this for kids. We serve 0 to 21-year-olds, but we have a very high concentration of 13 and under. They're really the most underserved, and there was very little out in the country that I could find with a virtual model. So one of the key pieces that I did with the Val Mind Center right from the outset was I enrolled us in Medicaid. And wow, what a challenge that was to do and manage. And I have to say, if I didn't have the resources to support the clinic while I figured out how to actually take Medicaid, work with Medicaid, and serve that population, I would have had to stop. But I'm glad I stuck with it because 70% of the kids we see at our in-person clinic here are on Medicaid. And it's important to kind of understand the landscape in the country for these services for little kids. They're provided by little teeny clinics like my Val Mind Center here that cannot deal with Medicaid, won't deal with it, and so they don't. So the result is children on Medicaid across the country have years-long waits for services. And we've focused on early interventions because the sooner you can help a child with whatever challenges they're facing, the better the long-term outcomes are. And so I decided when I saw how effective the virtual model could be that, gosh, I know I can do this on a much grander, larger scale and take that moonshot that Ben mentioned earlier. And so about 2 years ago, I founded Healthy Young Minds, brought the most amazing therapists on board on the journey with me. We launched in Colorado, and I applied the a business model that I had assumptions would be the best to attack this problem. The problem really is that there's so few groups and clinicians that are actually credentialed with Medicaid. So I figured if you can solve that problem, you can build a massive, massive, impactful company. And this telehealth model has so many advantages over an in-person model that we are able to scale really rapidly with our capacity because we're not hiring from a local area, we're hiring from the entire state or across the entire country. And that is one of the key challenges in this space if you're serving folks or kids anywhere of whatever, whether it's commercial insurance, private pay, or Medicaid. Um, Building that capacity in an in-person is really challenging, but we don't have that challenge. So I've leveraged all these great advantages of a virtual model, and we're taking off. We got to about 2.5 million in revenue run rate just on the Colorado group. I took that Medicaid model and I applied it to all these other states. We're now operating in 6 states. It's Colorado, Texas, Florida, Ohio, Georgia, California, and we start that grueling process of working with Medicaid in each. And that success we've had in Colorado, where we've tried all our business process and worked our customer journey, has taken us there with just the 400,000 kids here. But now we are confronted with managing a jump in scale. And Texas has just opened up. Florida is about to open up. We have thousands of kids on a wait list for us in Florida. So I have to tell you personally, all those wins with investing and other businesses I've been involved with, it's felt good when you win, but really this impact on a day-to-day basis with the families that we're helping it's just extraordinary. And I think about the other times when I've been in this intense startup mode and growing 14-hour days and all the stress and all the challenges with all of that. I'm doing that same level of effort here, but I'm getting rewarded all the time with the emails and the feedback that come up from families and how thankful they are, and folks who had nowhere else to go for services, and being in a position where I'm applying all I've learned as an entrepreneur to a model that can be so profitable with 60% margins, that has the systemic challenges that if you apply things at scale, you can address those problems and just impact kids across the entire country. So I'm fueled by that. It is still a startup. It is still very challenging. I am I am a sole founder. I've really understand the benefits because of my experience as a co-founder. It's really fun to have a co-founder. It's great to have that other partner there, but I am a sole founder. I have early hires and folks that I call my co-founders, but really it's it's been a challenge to be the sole founder out there, and but I get fueled by this incredible work that we're doing. And just to talk about the moonshot of it, we are working in a space that is really neglected. There's this misconception out there about the Medicaid space that it doesn't pay well, you can't make money there, and we for the services that we're providing, the margins are great. The challenge is working within a system that is so bureaucratic and so many different regulations that frankly have come down, so it's made it easier, but it's just so complex in many ways. But they're problems that are solvable with focus and at scale. So it is an opportunity to have some real systemic change. I'll give you a little example. I don't know if I told you this story. I was at a health conference in Vegas a few months back, and there's lots of speakers. They're talking different topics. So I'm like, oh, let me go to the Medicaid one. And I sat there, and there's a few great people, some from government, and talking about it. There was nobody in the audience. There was like 5 people, and there's seats for hundreds. And it really struck me that we are blazing a trail in a space that is neglected. And those folks who are on Medicaid, they have nowhere to turn to get the help for their kids. Like my wife and I, we have the funds. We could drive to Denver, get my son tested, and there's still no services up here. But it just occurred to me that we are blazing a trail and I look 5 years ahead, and I think that same Medicaid discussion will be jammed with folks trying to figure out, well, geez, healthy young minds is look how well they're doing, look how fast they've grown, and how effective and profitable they are. And we got to do that too. So I look at it's not just the impact that we're having. I look at our success as spurring potentially some real systemic change that has an impact for kids in the millions instead of the thousands and hundred thousands that are in our we have a chance to impact.
Yeah, without question. I mean, Paul, just, I mean, hearing you share your story again just reaffirms why, I'm so excited that you're a portfolio company within Supernova. We get to fully get behind you and back you on your dream, and which is a beautiful one. I mean, the net is that mental health is a real issue for everybody, and especially for kids and teens. And like I mean, the stats are out there, but it's like what, like 20% of kids right now have a mental health issue, or behavioral challenge that they're addressing. I go to like the top most successful people I know, and there's folks who have gone on record saying everyone needs a coach. It's like, well, those kids need a therapist. They need someone who can support them. And so getting them access to talk to somebody, and then getting properly tested and matched up with the right therapist, and then have evidence-based care with like real accountability and outcomes. And absent that, I've been learning from you all how quickly and easily people just the kids just go down a rabbit hole, and kind of it's like a spiral that just sucks the families down with them. And it's much more holistic. It's not just the online therapy. It includes like how they're eating and everything else. It all matters. And the fact that 58% of families that right now have mental health issues are in fact they qualify for Medicaid and can get the support. They just need to know how to bill through it, so there's zero out of pocket costs. I mean, the solution's there, but you're carving out a way. And so thank you for helping to save the day in many ways, and we get to scale and support your efforts. So talk to me quickly. What are a few things that we can do as part of a support system for you within the Supernova community? I mean, obviously you have your advisors that have been supporting you, but beyond that, like, what are a few things you mentioned? I know, like, I mean, obviously there's going to be a raise, so that's that obviously is one potential. But how else can we get behind what you're up to?
So we're confronting some just massive growth opportunities, and the demand that we've tapped into is extraordinary. So if any folks out there in the community have experience in the healthcare space and scaling businesses in healthcare, uh, I'm sure there's things you could advise us on and help. I need some more operational support as we're growing, and there's just so it's um it's extraordinary what we've tapped into. And to meet that demand, we have to scale up and prove our systems and bring on some other folks. So anyone who's got experience in the healthcare space at medium or large scale, that would be really helpful. And we're also now confronted with such demand in Florida and Texas and Ohio that we need to scale up some folks on board. We need to bring on some more talent and raising around to just not a huge one, bring in a few $1,000,000, and that should take us to profitability and allow us to scale and grow without any further raises.
Yeah, beautiful. I know the advisors that we've already kind of matched you up with within Supernova have not only committed what is arguably like their most valuable resource, which is their time and their wisdom and resources and networks, but also too, I know a number of them have already, leaned in and want to, pen checks too, which is just also awesome. And so, yeah, definitely want to support you on your growth and scale so we can have even more impact. And I think it also, as we've discussed, and I was out in Vail with you, over the winter, in December, with the whole team for our on-site leadership meetings. I mean, just realizing that you're really pioneering and innovating, a new way of working, working with Medicaid, leveraging telehealth, services, and really creating new operating systems and infrastructure and scaffolding to support, a richer way to solve the problem sets. And so, I'm excited that you're trailblazing and that this can be an example that others can learn from and lean into and help to replicate in other sectors, markets, and industries too. And so, anyway, Paul, you're a beautiful human being, and you kept saying, I think 6 times, you're like, I'm a soul founder, and every time I heard, I'm like, yeah, I can feel your soul. Like I can feel your soul. It's a beautiful soul, and also as founders, remembering we're not alone, and that there's lots of people who are around to help us, especially when we make unrealistic requests, when we're up to something that really matters, because we know it in our heart of hearts it's going to have a real impact, and it's having a real impact. So anyway, thank you for being you. Thank your wife too. We love her as well, and know that she's keeping everything afloat. They work together too. Everyone who's dialed in. I mean, she's a powerhouse. And so, anyway, if you feel at all called, the Ready Player World button below this feed or the replay, please click on that if you'd like to be connected with Paul, and we're happy to do so as the kids get to have it all. I know that they're beyond deserving. So Paul, thank you so much. Appreciate you, and
Thank you.
wish you a good day. We'll connect, I'm sure, later on.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Cheers. And so that's pretty much a wrap. I wanted to just again thank the incredible human beings that have shown up and shared their story with you all today. These are 3 clearly evolutionary entrepreneurs who are really up to changing the world in really beautiful ways. And as you've kind of heard from their story, each one of them has been through a gauntlet of work life, challenges and struggles and successes, all so that they can come into their real purpose, right? To show up in service and really be highly impactful and in the ways of now working in both the finite and infinite games. So hopefully it's a beautiful reminder, with and for all of you. We are all mirrors for one another. And so hopefully you see aspects of yourself in them and are reminded of things within you that you get to continue to nurture and water and grow. And also too, perhaps there is something that has been calling to you that you get to show up and share with the world. And when you are ready, we're here to support you. So thank you so much for your time. and presence and participation in our first community live event. If you have any feedback, warmly welcome it. You can certainly message me or a member from the Supernova team, and we're wishing you all the light we can as we light up the world together and shine ever so bright. Thank you all, and have a good night, day, morning, wherever you are.
Go Supernova. Light up the world. Ready, player, world.